Welcome to the RPG Podcast.
And we are live.
Oh, God, Patton!
Presented by Sheath. A Time Wheel production.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Robert Patton Global Podcast. I am here with a returning guest. His name is Justin Dollard, and he's been on before, but we lost the audio. That was a couple months ago.
Yep.
So thank you for coming back. And when I was on your podcast, it was one of my best appearances ever, in my opinion. So, we utilized your recording and put it on our podcast. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. You're a very good guy. Thank you for coming. So it's been a while, but I wanted to talk about podcasting in general, at least to start off, because we're both podcasters. You're the host of Authentic with Justin Dollard.
Yes, sir.
It says the Authentic Podcast. If you try to find it like that, it won't work.
Right. Yeah. Apple's really weird like that.
Yeah.
Spotify can be too. So I always try and drop the name in there, but
yeah. And you're getting bigger. I mean, you just had Bruce Buffer.
I did.
The face of the Octagon.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was really, that's a huge guest. That must feel really good for you.
I imagine that will be my biggest one ever, unfortunately. I don't know if I peak at that, or maybe I'll have someone who can match him, but it was easier than I thought. I mean, it was not hard to get him. Now, with that being said, I'm sure he doesn't say yes to everyone, and technically I'm one of his customers because, my intro is him introducing my name in the podcast, but I just reached out and, his business partner, who's awesome as well. I mean, very responsive, had just said that, his time is limited, but he would love to give me a little bit. And he gave me 30 minutes, which, I mean, is amazing.
Yeah, I would love to get 30 minutes with Cowboy or any of these big name guys. I know that time is scarce. Everyone's always hitting you up, and, everybody wants something from you. So for him to make time for little old you, I'm sure that felt good. And I think it just adds more credibility to what you're doing, so that you can, if maybe you don't get as big, but you can get bigger guests than you had before. You also had Smiling Sam Alvey.
Mm-hmm. Super cool guy. He was awesome.
Yeah.
Then I had Jimmy Flick right after Bruce Buffer, who just retired. You know that story kind of, or no?
Tell me.
Jimmy Flick, he was an LFA guy, was like 12-2 or 13-3, pretty good. And he got on Contender Series and won the fight and got the contract. Then he won his UFC debut by a flying triangle, like only the third one.
I do remember that.
The only third finish like that in the UFC. And then he kind of had to change of heart, and he abruptly retired from the UFC.
Whoa.
Yep.
And you got to have a conversation about that.
Yeah, well, I had him on right after he won on the Contender Series.
Okay.
Because I didn't know he was on. I remember watching him back in Oklahoma at the casinos
Yeah.
in Legacy, because his name is Unique Flick,
Yeah.
And then, so I had him on after that, and everything seemed normal and fine. And then, I mean, he had retired on a Saturday at one of the local promotions. It was a shock to everybody. I mean, he was on, Ariel Helwani's show. He was on everybody's, and I got him on again. I waited a little bit because his was kind of like an emotional deal. I waited till about 3 or 4 weeks after he did it, because he had so many interviews and was busy, and I think going through a lot of emotions. And I reached out, and because he'd actually followed me back on Instagram, and I just said, "Hey, I know you're super busy, man, and real proud of you for what you did, and I'd love to have you talk again whenever you're ready." Because long story short, he grew up pretty rough, and his dad and his brother were real bad into drugs, and he thought that when he got in the UFC, it would kind of open their eyes and be like, "Hey, Jimmy's made it. I'm going to come back and be with Jimmy," and kind of corner him like I used to. And, he said that after he won his UFC fight, he didn't even get a phone call from his dad. So he said, I was fighting for the wrong reasons. I really wanted to have my dad and my brother back in my life, and they didn't come around. And he said, "I'm just tired of missing out with time on my family." And, obviously it's kind of the dark side of what people don't see in MMA, the things they go through. They see the lights and the walkout songs and the money. But Jimmy's like, I'm working a full-time job on the side because I'm not Conor McGregor. I'm not, I'm not Amanda Nunes. I don't got those big fights. And then I'm getting off work and I'm going to train, and I'm coming home and, running an extra mile. So I'm seeing my daughters for like an hour a day, for 7 days a week. And he's like, I just want to be a family man. I'm tired of it. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a podcast with this guy. I don't even remember his name. And he was like undefeated in boxing, and we never released it because he was being called up to bare knuckle boxing. Sorry, dude. I want to air it, and I'm sorry I can't think of your name right now. But the point was he was undefeated in boxing and just quit all of a sudden randomly at the top of his game, and he was really good. Quits for like 10 years. He admitted he was doing meth for like 10 years and just partying and just crazy, wild meth shit that you would do when you're on meth. And he got called back to fight in bare knuckle boxing. We're going to sponsor him. He's going to tattoo Sheath like somewhere on his body. And
Nice.
It was really motivating him to get back in shape and get a new car for his fiance. And because there's financial, gains from fighting. And ultimately his opponent backed out and he didn't end up fighting, and I don't know what's happening to him, but like I feel like sometimes it's good to have that sport to keep you motivated to stay on track. But then I guess in Jimmy's case, it can, if you don't need that, I guess everyone has their different paths.
Sure. Well, he said in my podcast too, and he said it on multiple things, like I said, on Hawani show and whatnot. He said, my goal was never to be champion. He's like, obviously if it happened, that'd be great. But he's like, and he always said, I never wanted to be the next Mighty Mouse or the next Conor McGregor. He's like, I just wanted to make a decent living for my family, and I wanted to make the walk to the UFC. He said, I made the walk and I did it. And then I realized I was fighting for the wrong reasons, and it's tough on him. And he talked about, he's a 125er. He talked about cutting down 20 pounds as a 125er.
Yeah.
And then he said, he's like, I'm a small guy. I get in there and I cut down this weight. He's like, and these guys are so huge. He's like, the people that can get to 135, or even because he went back and forth. He's like, they're just so much bigger than me, because he's a tall, skinny guy, kind of like a Figueiredo. He's a 35 or 25er, but he's like supposedly walks at like 165.
Oh, are you serious? Figueiredo?
Yeah. The rumors that he could be at 160, 165. So Jimmy's like, I go against guys like this, and he's
my God.
It's brutal.
Yeah. Yeah, that mental toughness. I was just watching, I've been watching The Ultimate Fighter, the old seasons. This season's not that great. I don't know. My wife is complaining that there's not a lot of drama in the house. They do the backstory and then they fight. And so UFC, we need a little bit more drama. Throw a girl in there, they have to fight over, or some more alcohol.
Spice it up.
Yeah, because it used to be super fun. And I was watching the series where Ronda Rousey was coaching against Misha Tate, and this dude, these two guys were scheduled to fight, and then one of them didn't make weight, and he kind of reminds me of Jimmy Flick, and I think Jimmy Flick's kind of like a country boy type dude, maybe even a mullet. If I'm maybe not,
mullet for him, but he's from the country for sure.
I feel I would recognize him if I saw him, but this guy was one of those guys, tough as nails, country boy, been fighting forever, and then fight comes up. And it's like they wait to the last minute to cut all this weight, and they're all like cocky about it. And then you cut the weight for whatever reason, it won't come off, and then your career's ended. This guy is like remembered. I looked him up. I've been looking him up. Like, where are they now? And he's remembered as the guy who like didn't make weight on the Ultimate Fighter series. I mean, that's like kind of what he's remembered for. But actually, what's funny is his opponent made weight. This is what's funny. But so he got skipped to the next round, and he was to fight in the next round. And then when it was time to make weight, he didn't make weight.
Oh, wow.
And he was being so cocky, like eating burgers. And Ronda was like really like getting after him. You need to cut weight, or watch your diet and all this. And it's so embarrassing I don't know how we got on that per se, but it's just like it's just about discipline. Sure. Ultimately,
I was listening to Joe this morning. He had the gentleman named Andrew Huberman. Not sure what his actual official title is, but right when I paused it on my run, it was when Joe was ranting about weight cuts in the UFC and just how terrible it is, and how it's he calls it legalized cheating. Mm-hmm. He was talking about like Usman, who is like a 170-pound fighter, but he's actually like 200 pounds. He's like, he's a beast.
I know. And so, because some people can cut more weight than others, and that gives you this huge advantage.
So when we watched the fights last weekend, which we can keep talking about, or we can go back to podcasting.
No, we're gonna go where we go.
I'm thinking, so I'm watching Dustin, right? Big Dustin fan, but they're like, he could be between 180 and 190. And he said that on Joe Rogan too.
Oh, wow.
I'm thinking right now I'm like 220 and I'm like, I still have plenty of body fat to lose. Like I need to lose more weight, more body fat. And Dustin walks around 190 and he's fighting at 155. That's insane.
Yeah, that'd be like me because I weigh 155, 160.
You would have to be like a
125er.
You'd have to be, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's
because you'd be fighting like Habib, who's like 190.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that. Any of those guys in that weight class, for that matter. But I would like to fight. But I think if I was gonna fight, I would want to fight someone my size or probably smaller. Just kidding, my size, but not that cut weight. Just like a fair fight, because that makes it more fun and more interesting for the fans when you have these dominant champions and stuff. To me, I lose some of the excitement about it. Like when Mighty Mouse was champion, I'm like, okay,
right.
I barely watched them.
Yeah, 12 years in a row.
Yeah.
Or 12 belts in a row or something crazy. I got a celebrity you could fight.
Ooh.
Roland Welker.
Okay.
He was on the History's Channel's Alone. He was on my podcast.
Is he local?
No, he moves around a lot.
Okay.
He's kind of a nomad traveler. I mean, so do you know what Alone is? What he did? He was a guest on the podcast too.
Awesome.
And after this, we'll finally can talk about that. But it's just funny because you're like, I want to fight, but you're like, Roland. I talked to him about it, and he's like, yeah, I've been really getting into UFC lately because he's like outdoors like 90% of the time in his life. Mm-hmm. So Alone, he went and stayed in the Canadian winter wild for 90 days by himself. They gave him 10 items, and he won $1 million.
Ooh.
He was the first person on the show, season 7, first person to 100 days.
Oh my God.
100 days.
So it's like Naked and Afraid, but
you're
isn't
dressed.
it? And it's a Netflix series, right? Or no?
It was on History Channel.
Oh, okay,
Not
cool.
well, I think it's on Netflix now. Netflix adds stuff and drops it. I don't know, but he was on season 7, first person to go 100 days. I think before that it was like 75 or 80 or 90. I can't remember, but he's insane.
Well, then I don't want to fight him.
But I
stay inside too much because that makes you soft when you stay inside. You get hard bodied, like kind of a farmer strength.
Yeah. Well, I asked him because he said, because he doesn't even run his own Instagram. Like the people I talked to on there is like his brother-in-law, because he's just, I think he's in his late 50s and he's just such an outdoorsman.
All right, maybe I'll fight him. I'm just kidding.
You should. No, but he was like,
he's an old man.
He said, I've been wanting to watch. He's like, I've been watching UFC. He's like, it's really fun. I really like. He's like, I'm not a huge TV guy or a sports guy, but I love it. And I said, well, do you ever train at all for fun? And he said, no. He's like, but I would. He's like, hell, I think I'd take a fight. He's like, I think I'd like to do it. I like the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I would. The only thing is I have some teeth issues. I'd be like, don't punch me in my teeth. And then anything else is fair game. Because the rush of it all, I think, would be so exciting. They fucking shut that cage door, and you're like, okay.
What about these kicks these people are getting, though, man? Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's a different world.
I've been taught to throw those kicks with your shin, since like a long time ago. People don't know how to kick properly, but you see in the UFC with legs being broken that you kick with your shin, which is like the equivalent of a baseball bat. But do you think Conor's leg was hurt before the fight? Because they're showing this footage like he's got it iced up and he's like,
I don't know, man. I don't know. I see both sides of it. I could definitely see it, but in my opinion, with knowing a little bit about being like a medical professional, I feel like if there were stress fractures, I feel like they wouldn't have let him do it if a doctor looked at that and cleared it. And then also round 1, he's the one throwing kicks.
Yeah,
he's not getting them. He's throwing them. So if your leg was banged up, I think you would try to hide it and disguise a little bit. But I mean, when you look at the way he broke that leg and how he managed that pain, maybe he was right, because you look at the other 2 latest ones, Weidman and then the one before
Silva?
that, Silva. Yeah. I mean, they're in agonizing pain. Conor gets on the ground. I didn't even notice it at first. My wife's like, his foot, look at his foot.
Yeah, I was
like, what is, Herb, I don't think.
Back. Oh my God.
Yeah.
He was going to get up and fight again or something.
Seriously. I don't think Herb Dean even saw it. They just happened to see it because there's 7 seconds in the round. Mm-hmm. He didn't.
Yeah, because Dustin came back on him and was punching him and he's paralyzed.
I did not really like at all how he handled himself in the post-fight
course
conference,
not.
but the way he handled that pain was insane.
Yeah,
That's ridiculous.
I was embarrassed and ashamed, kind of, for the way he responded.
It was terrible.
People are justifying it, and I can totally see where they're coming from. He was in pain.
No,
Like, but they're making excuses. Everyone makes excuses for him because they want him to come back, and it was like kind of like Trump, if you will, like anybody that was a huge Trump supporter.
you just got to go out on your shield with him. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm more of like, I'll love you until I don't necessarily want to love you anymore. And he's on my vision board, and he's an amazing inspiration to a lot of. He just sold fucking Proper 12 for $600 million, which luckily probably right before this fight, because it might not have sold for so high. But
Yeah.
he's done amazing things, and he actually, from what I know, followed a lot of the principles of success that I follow, which is a lot of it was just
Visionary.
believe in it,
Yeah.
you know? But then once you get to a certain level, I guess that hunger, I mean, obviously the hunger's different, you know, and that alone, I guess, is the major difference from Connor now versus Connor back then.
If I drive anywhere on a yacht, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
Why would you want to get, arguably beat up somebody when you made it? But everyone's different. So
He needs to fight people that aren't so tough, I guess, you know.
the
and
YouTube stars,
Yeah, exactly.
easy money,
Quit.
and you could probably stomp them.
Well, and you're fighting Dustin Poirier and fucking Khabib and
Yeah.
Floyd Mayweather. I mean, he's not fighting chumps.
And Dustin Poirier is still trying to prove himself, even though he's already, a Hall of Famer. He's trying to get the unified or the undisputed belt. So he's still super hungry.
Yeah.
He's chasing money, but he's also chasing the glory, and he doesn't shy away from damage. I mean, he will take it and give it, like you said.
Oh yeah.
So-
he fought Holloway, and that was a pretty. Holloway's the shit. That was went the distance. I love when a fight goes the distance, especially if I like both of the fighters.
Oh, 100%.
Like, I wish the Conor McGregor and Cowboy fight would have gone the distance.
I know.
Why did he turned up for that fight? Like, and who knows what he would have done if he fought Poirier on that night? Because he looked, to me, I was there, and he looked like a lion.
Sure.
It was like he was like glowing. Well, I was on mushrooms,
Right.
But there was some like a presence that he exudes that's obviously very.
Yeah, and
People are drawn to it.
sure. And I don't want to take anything away from that performance, but we've all heard about Cowboy, how he said like he gets super nervous before big fights, and I think he had said after that he was like, I just wasn't there, I wasn't in the moment and ready. And I hate when people like knack someone for that, because I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, like, I think 98% of the world, if you put this little light in front of them in the backyard, they're going to be like, whoa, what are you doing? But these people, 20, 30,000 people, it's just a lot of pressure. And then Conor McGregor is no slouch either. But like I said, that was his return, and he was on fire. And maybe, because he was at 170, maybe he was a little more full and thick. And
yeah, it's been a journey, but with the UFC doesn't need him. Like, I guess there was questioning him. Does the UFC need you? I think he said they need me, or
people,
they'll
they
have
need people
me
like
forever.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like it's Tony.
Tony Montana.
Yeah, I was gonna say Soprano, but yeah.
Well, I saw that article, and my dad and my brother were talking about it with me, and I was like, well, that could be fitting, right? Because they're talking about how when it's like, you need people like me, it's the scene where he's at the restaurant and he's like, drunk and high, and he's like, can barely walk, and he's leaving. That's like the turn of the movie when he goes downhill.
Yeah.
And then he starts like losing everybody, and then
Killed
that's
his
when
brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Or was it his brother?
Brother-in-law.
Yeah. Well, because he was going after his sister.
Yeah, his
But
best
they were
friend.
best friends. Yeah.
Exactly.
And he killed his best friend because he was sleeping with his sister, but they were in love, and it was a sweet story. This podcast is brought to you by ohanakavabar.com. Now, Ohana means family, but what is kava? Kava is a root from the South Pacific. It makes you calm and happy. Just go to ohanakavabar.com. Choose your favorite brew. They have many to choose from, with more on the way. And I personally like the tincture. It tastes good. It gets you quick. and you're calm and relaxed in a moment. It cools and calms the nerves, and I think you'll like it. Let them know we sent you. Support this podcast by supporting our sponsors and support this company. So go to ohanakababar.com, use promo code Sheath. You're going to love it. Doesn't taste that great, but chase it with a nice pineapple. You will not be disappointed. Trust me on that. ohanakababar.com. Ohana's family. Use promo code Sheath. You're welcome. Last but not least, sheathunderwear.com. The greatest underwear on the planet. The underwear of legends. The underwear that keeps your balls from sticking to your legs. That's right. This is the best underwear because it keeps your boys cool. Check out sheathunderwear.com. Back to the show. That guy, I just saw him in another show, that the brother from Scarface. He's like a big gangster now in movies. Yeah. I mean, there's a show called, I highly recommend it. I really liked it, called Queen of the South. And it's like a female version of Scarface, but it's like a series, and he's
Netflix or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Queen of the South. I loved it. If you liked Scarface, if you liked Breaking Bad, just stuff like that, it's kind of a gangster.
Oh yeah.
And also like a Latino version. I have this much Mexican kind of in me, and so I really like the culture because that was my family. I always identified with it, and so watching like Mexican gangster movies, really, I really, and any gangster movies, really, I love gangster movies.
Sure, I do too. It took me a while to get on at Scarface. Of course, when I first watched it, I was like 13 or 14. My dad was like, all right, you can watch this one now. And then I was like, it's really long, and what's it about? And it's drawn out. But then I watched it 2, 3, 4 more times, and then I was like, okay. Because it has, tons of motives and stories inside of a big story. So
it's a hero's journey.
Yeah.
Like Joseph Campbell, like Star Wars, just like it's everywhere. And every one of us is trying to live out our story. That was his story. And all of our stories are different.
Yep.
But a lot of people are doing podcasts, and we're in a sea of, how many people do you think? Hundreds of thousands or millions?
It's hard to tell. They say there's, already millions right now, but it's still just like blowing up because it's kind of that movement type deal where everybody has a voice. Like 15, 20 years ago, only certain people could be heard. Like if you were on the radio, if you were on the TV, or if you were like a local personality. But now you can go viral in an hour. I mean, it doesn't even have to be anything good or big. You can just, depending on what you do, and especially if you got talent. And that's how podcasting is going. Now, podcasting is a little more work than say like your Facebook or your TikTok, in my opinion. But it kind of gives people who didn't have a voice before, like, I don't ever want to be on the radio. I never did. But I wanted to podcast for like 4 or 5 years before I did it. I was always just kind of scared to do it. So I think it will continue to grow in popularity. And I think, like a lot of things like mainstream radio and stuff like that, it's been slowly dying. And I think it's eventually just going to kind of separate, and people are going to be, a lot more podcasters and whatnot. And the people that are good at it will succeed, and the other ones that aren't, it'll be more of, something they just kind of burn out on.
Yeah. A lot of people will burn out along the way. There's something about a success principle where if you just stick it out and you don't quit, like 90 or 80 or 90% of the people that start at the same starting line, you're 20 and you want to be a movie star, 90 are going to quit before they even start. It's
weird because, in my opinion, or I guess I know myself pretty well, but I don't really get nervous a lot. Like it's a blessing. A lot of people get nervous or anxious, and that's just not something I've ever dealt with the most part.
Yeah.
But when I have big guests on, especially virtual, because virtual is so much, in person's way better. But like with Bruce Buffer, like I can't get Bruce Buffer in person, probably never.
Right.
So for the fact that I could get virtual, it's like I have to, and especially in a day where he lives in California. I don't even live in California, right? But long story short, I don't get nervous. And if anyone was like, "I'll give you 30 minutes of Bruce Buffer," you're like, "Sign me up. How much do I pay?" Like, I'll take off work, anything. Well, when the time and the moment comes, and I get on my platform and I'm ready. It's weird, but a small part of me was like, I hope he shoots an email. I was like, I can't make it. I cancel. I'm like, because I'm then like with about 5
You'd
to 10
be
minutes
relieved
in.
a little bit.
Yeah, because then I'm like, okay, wait, I'm kind of nervous now, kind of anxious. This guy knows everybody in the world.
Wow,
And then he's like, yeah, sure. So I'm sitting there waiting for him to come on. And I'm like, maybe he'll get an email. It's like, can't make it today. Or, I had something. And I'm like nervous. And then I see his name pop up, like let him enter the room. It's like, Bruce has entered. And I was like, oh my God, like, oh shit. Here he is. So I hit admit. Then he pops up and he's just like, hey, Justin, how's it going? And then, it kind of just cool off. Yeah. I mean,
well, hey, what
guy.
platform do you use, by the way?
So I've done both. I've done Zoom, which is super easy and cheap and not the greatest. And I've also done one called Riverside that I kind of like.
Okay.
So if you have recommendations, totally open to them.
Yeah, I mean, we use Zencastr and Zoom. I use Zoom if someone only has a phone, for sure. And then if you have a desktop and you can sit there and you have a good system, the Zencastr audio is better. And they just added video, which we were all audio up until about a few months ago. And just watching other podcasters that are doing well, and like Bridget Fedesi and Believe You Me, what they do audio and video, but actually Bridget only does YouTube, and I'm seeing a lot of these instances where they do the podcast, it's like an hour, but then they take a 3-minute clip and post that, and those typically get more views, and as well they will introduce new people to your show from a segment, so
Have you been doing that?
we just started doing that.
I did too. I've only done a couple, but I've been trying it because I saw the same thing. Because a big guy that I follow, I'm sure you do, Theo Vaughn.
Oh yeah.
This past weekend, he does the segments, and it's just the way we are. It's kind of like YouTube used to be the jam, and now it's more like TikTok. It's like everything's like in minute little spurts, right? Because we our attention is just. So I noticed that too, and especially with Theo's. And so I made a couple, and I mean, with most of the things I do in my life or anything, I just need to do more of it. Like, in my opinion, I know you're a big self-help guy, big motivation. You're you self-betterment all the time.
Limitless. I'm reading this book right now, everyone, and it's
good or no good.
It's so far so good. I definitely, I'm like 3 chapters in. It says Jim Quick knows how to get the maximum out of me as a human being. Will Smith. You know who he is.
Oh yeah.
So he has a lot of like Oprah and all these people. So I was like, all right.
I try to be like honest with myself, and because I read a ton of self-help books. I read right now, like I read Andy Frisella's book, and I'm reading Wheat Belly, which is about wheat in our diets.
Interesting.
And because I'm on the kind of nutrition kick. But long story short, with stuff, I just a lot of times people are like, how's it going or how's this going? I just say I just need to do more of it, or I need to do better. They're like, how's your weight loss going? I'm like, it's good, but I just need to go harder. I need to do better. Same with podcasting. My brother really keeps the motivation on. My wife does too, but me and my wife talk every day. Me and my brother every other day or so. But he's like, hey, keep getting guests, keep asking, keep doing this, because a lot of times, if someone says no to coming on the show, or I just kind of get burnt out, or I don't want to ask somebody. Colton's like, just ask, just keep doing it. So he'll ask, how's it going? I'll say, I just need to do more. I need to just get after it. Instead of, because I have the books about podcasting, and people are like, you need to network and find sponsors and this. But ultimately, I just need to really be proactive, put in the time, and just keep doing it and keep going.
When you said asking people, and they said yes or no, but like I've asked Michael Bisping, and he said yes, but we haven't done it. I did ask Cowboy, he said yes, but we haven't done it. Mark Norman, yes. Haven't done it. So it's kind of easy to get them to say yes, but it's harder to nail them down.
Sure.
And that's maybe something we're not doing right, because I don't want to pressure them. I'm like, at your convenience, you're doing me a favor. It'd be an honor. So I don't want to just be be an asshole or whatever. So that's something I deal with a little bit.
When they say yes, do you just kind of let it settle, or have you followed up, or you're just?
I think so how would you handle that? When they say yes, then you just like lock in a time, probably?
Like, I'm an example person. So literally give me an example of what you said to Michael Bisping, and what did he say back to you? You don't have to quote it, but
I
just
actually had my team reach out to them, and he So they were just asking if he would be on the podcast. I don't really recall much else about it, but I remember him saying, "This week is slammed. Can we try for next week?" And I said, "Yeah, we'll." Because then I got in there and I said, "Yeah, we'll follow up next week." And then we follow up, and I don't even know. I think it's on us for not following up, but I also don't want to pester them.
Sure.
So it's weird. I'm not sure.
I'm the same way. I get those ways with, like I said, so with Bruce, I have to be honest. You know, I when I first started the podcast, Colton was like, "You should get Bruce to do your intro." And so I dig in it and I did it.
That's so cool.
And one of my biggest quotes or things I live by is, if you never ask, the answer is always no. Or if you never ask, you never know, right? Kind of like with you. I had no idea who you were. I didn't even know what Sheath was until I saw it on Cerrone's page. So then, I'm always on Instagram way too much, but hey, I found you, right? So dig in and click Sheath. And then it's like Colorado Springs. And I'm like, okay, I just moved here. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing the podcast. I was like, maybe he'll want to come on. I'd never seen your picture, never seen your face. I was like, I had no idea what to expect when I came out here. Just kind of risky.
Funny.
So, and then you said yes. And then for every one of you that says yes, there's a couple that say no, and that's fine. But back to that with Bruce, I was one of his customers, and he was one that I considered way out of the ballpark. Mm-hmm. And then my brother was like, "Why don't you email him and ask him?" And then I was like, I didn't listen to my own advice. I was like, "There's no way." And then I emailed him, and 45 minutes later, his business partner was like, "Yeah, sure. He'd love to. He'll give you, 20, 30 minutes." And I was like, whoa, that was like freaking easy. I've had a hard time getting people I've known on forever. I mean,
yeah, I want to ask you for his email, but you can't do him like that. You can't just be going and giving his email out. So it's tricky as far as networking, because I wouldn't want to not burden Malice, but like you might want Malice on your podcast. And I'm like, yeah, but, and I don't know, maybe it's, just ask, I guess.
Sure. And a big part of the thing with him too is I think I was, one of his customers. Yes. I bought one of his intro packages. I'm sure he gets inquiries all the time. But even then, how many people buy those? He didn't have to say yes. And if he would have said no, I wouldn't have disliked him anymore.
Right.
I understand. I mean, the guy is, world known. Mm-hmm. So I try, sometimes when people like ignore me or leave me on red, sometimes I get a little salty and bitter, but then I come back and I'm like, okay, I a lot of times I'll reach for big guests. Mm-hmm. And so I have to take that into consideration. These people are busy, and I mean, I've never seen it because I'm not a celebrity, but you don't know the inquiries they get. So you can't hold it against them too much. So everyone I get, I'm like super thankful. But I'm with you, and kind of like my brother with the other stuff, if you never ask, you never know. And, it's a lot different than if you're, if you catch them at a steakhouse and you're like in their face, like, "Can I get a picture? Can I get an autograph?" To me, that's not, if you never ask, you never know.
Bit. Yeah.
You're a businessman, you're a professional. If you shoot them an email and you're like, "Let's get it set up." And
I mean, I feel like I could do it because I have some credibility in that I've interviewed multiple fighters.
Sure.
Multiple UFC fighters. So at least I have that. And so I'm not just nobody. And I've been doing this for 4+ years. People don't maybe know that because it's only of the last year or so. I've been doing it more production style and regularly. But I've been doing it for a while.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, with the Bisping and Cowboy thing, if they said yes, I think you just need to schedule it and just don't be afraid.
Yeah.
And then, if you try and get a time and that it's like you try 2 or 3 times and they're just really against it, or they can't work it out, then maybe be like, okay, maybe they just kind of said yes and they don't want to do it.
Right. They're saying yes to be nice.
Yeah. I think you could pick up on that vibe. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, if for someone who's a super busy guy like that, in my opinion, I would say, I know you guys said you do the podcast, be like, let me know best days and times, and then let me know a time frame. I always try and get that from people.
Write this down.
Yeah.
Well, because but now it made me think of when you said that you were kind of hoping Bruce Buffer might call and cancel right before. I'm like not pushing it because I'm scared also a little bit.
Oh yeah. No, you'll absolutely get nervous. Like for me, like I said, not a whole lot of nerves in most stuff. The whole day I was like, Bruce. And then like 10 minutes before I was just like, whoa, hold on. Like, damn, I don't know. This is weird.
What have
like
I got
this is a lot.
into?
Yeah. Cause then, I like to have a conversation that is very, authentic, no pun intended, and free flowy, but also I'm not just going to sit here. I don't want it to be me sitting here asking you questions and going down the list.
Well, okay. On that,
I wanted to converse, and I feel like I'm good at that, but with Bruce, that's a different level of person. So I really wanted to be on my game.
Yeah. So you did some research,
Yeah.
maybe. And so tell me like your methodology of that, at least in this case.
Okay. So with most guests, unless it's like my brother or like one of my good buddies where we have a topic, I can, if it's someone I really want to know more about and a big guest, like Sam Alvey, Jimmy Flick, Bruce Buffer, all those types of people, a lot of times I'll ask people who listen to the podcast for questions.
Nice.
Like if it was you and I was going to have a UFC fighter coming on, back, if you have any good questions, let me know, because I can't take 40. But then a lot of times I'll post on my social media too and say, if you have any questions to bring up, because that not only gives you creative ideas, it provides engagement.
Yeah, and then they might come and listen to the show and see if you asked the question they suggested. That's
Exactly.
kind of funny.
Yeah,
I like that.
So like if I'm talking about stuff I want the whole time, then people might listen. But if I'm like, hey, I got your question in, then what is that?
Sorry.
No, you're good.
So Hanakava Bar, it's
Oh,
one
yeah,
of
your
our
buddy's place.
sponsors.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's local here in Colorado Springs. You haven't been, I guess?
No, I have not.
I think it would coincide with your 75-day hard if you were open to telling yourself it was not intoxicating, because it kind of is.
So what is it?
It's a root from the South Pacific that makes you calm and happy. They call it like an herbal Xanax, and it actually has like a mouth numbing effect, which I like in this tincture because I went to the dentist yesterday. I had like dental surgery. I almost canceled again, and I was like, I canceled one yesterday. I had one.
You don't like the dentist?
I've been so many times. It's like the worst. At this point, I've been having I had like a missing tooth for like a year, and then it's just been a nightmare. And it's been like that pretty much my whole life, just on and off dental work. And they put in this new grill for me.
Can I see?
Yeah, and it was hurting really bad. So I actually had to go get it taken out, and then they put in a new one. But this one was hurting again. And I put some of that in my mouth, and it numbed it, so my teeth don't hurt. So if you have it's kind of like a natural Oragel substitute, and it kind of gets you a little bit. It doesn't get you high, but it makes you feel relaxed. I mean, it's very subtle, and so a lot of people who are in the program will go to his bar, but they're drinking like triple Krakens, which is like an absurd amount, and they are getting fucked up.
Sure.
So, but I do promote it. Promo code Sheath10 will save you 10%. I totally fucked up your flow of the conversation.
No, absolutely. No, it's cool. We'll go right back on. Like I said, I don't like things to be too structured. I like to hit points, but bounce off because it's like radio. I don't like the radio. I don't like the news. It's very dry and very like I follow a guy. I do enjoy his stuff, but it's not my style. His name's Graham Bensinger. Okay. He does a lot of athlete interviews, but his is more question and answer. He doesn't do a whole lot of discussion flow. Like, he's had a ton of guys on. Like I just watched his one with Canelo Alvarez. He did about a couple months ago. He does a lot of NFL, NBA stars. Super, he's a great interviewer, but his is not really like a like I said, conversation. It's more of him asking them questions, they answer, he responds a little bit, then asks another question.
Yeah,
that's not my style.
I feel like this is like a dance more so. And
yes.
Like it's leading, I'm leading, then you might be leading, but we're following along as best we can to keep from stepping on each other's toes.
Yes.
And I do like this better. I do sometimes want to have questions, at least some kind of general focus of the overall conversation, which is what I like about this podcast, because it can always go back to like success principles, which I like. But one of those is knowing what you want to do. And recently I was like, I want to be a better podcaster. And so I started looking on YouTube how to be a better podcaster, how to do a good interview. And this one guy came up, it was like a TED Talk, and it was fascinating because he was interviewing these older people who had already lived their life. They already know their story, and all they want to do is tell their story. And all he has to do is ask the right question, and then it sparks this flood of memories. But it's like, what question is it? And one of the people he asked, it was this older lady. She was a choreographer, and she wasn't the most attractive woman, apparently, based on this question. And what he asked her was, what was it like? Or were you resentful for not ever being beautiful? beautiful. And it was weird. It really like struck a chord with me, but obviously. But, you know, that's the thing. You know, you want to be a star, but you're not beautiful, right? And you can't really control that. But what she did was she became the best dancer she could. She became a choreographer. And I don't really recall exactly what she said about it, but she made up for it in other ways. But it really just sparked this flood of memories for her, and it was a really good conversation. And I want to know what question to ask someone, but would I have the balls to say that to someone?
Sure.
That's fucking ballsy.
That is bold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
no, you have to send it to me. I mean, I could tell you definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was very moving, and I just want to get better, which is kind of why I wanted this conversation. We're both probably in the similar stages of our podcasting career, and I noticed you had a really cool sponsor on the Bruce Buffer, what was it?
Probably Pete and Pedro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use their product.
Yeah, I do too.
How did you get, I mean, Aaron Marino is one of the owners,
Mm-hmm.
Alpha M.
Yep.
And we work with him. It's just a fun, small world. How do you get your sponsors? How did you get that one?
So goes back to the same thing. I tried their product, their putty, like their men's hair putty, and then like their hairspray. And I just asked, really, it's not always that easy. Like you're going to get told no, but they have like a affiliate form. And so I reached out and I was like, hey, how does this work? And they're like, well, you can use our promo code and do sales like that. And I was like, okay, well, I'd like a little something more personal too. I don't just want to push this link out on Facebook or something. I want to kind of, having a feel for it. And so they said, well, send us some information. And I have like a little data sheet, and mine's not too sexy because it's not like I have thousands of listeners, millions of listeners like some people do. But I just sent them the data sheet and some of my big guests and kind of what I'm about. Excuse me. And then they sent me like a little care package. And I told them those are my expectations starting out, small to middle. And it'll grow. Because a lot of times these people ask for ridiculous things, like all tons of free gear and all that. And I was like, I'm just getting started with this. This is kind of practice for me. I would just like to try some of your product. I would definitely review it. And then, if I like it, become a customer. And that was it. And I worked with the team and they were super responsive. And so ultimately I just asked.
That was impressed. I was impressed by that because I already used their shampoo and conditioner.
Yeah, they sent me some of that. They sent me like a loofah, and they sent me some of their other men's line, and then they were going to work on sending me like some of their new stuff, like a nose trimmer and stuff like that. So,
what's their promo code for them?
For mine?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'd have to look it up. I think because I had two, because they put one that was a regular and then one was for the show. I think it's Authentic 20. I'll have to pull it up. We can look at it, but no, it's fine. It's not a huge deal, but
because we're getting more and more followers, and I like to share the wealth as far as like you can't talk about your sponsorship on my podcast because it's conflicting with one of our sponsors or something, which it's not. And that happened to me recently where Michael Malice was supposed to go on Tim Pool's podcast. I don't know if you know who he is, but he has a pretty big following, and he's sponsored by Tommy John. So Malice presented it to him and he was like, no, sorry, you can't do that. But Lex Friedman just let him do it, which was awesome. I don't know if you know who he is.
I do not.
Lex Friedman is...
I've heard that name though, but I won't act like I know, but I've heard the name.
He's interviewed Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, Michael Malice, and the inventor of Ethereum. And I was actually just listening to one this morning where this guy got out of prison after 33 years for running drugs, cocaine from Colombia to United States for Pablo Escobar and this other guy. And he's telling the story. It's fascinating. And Lex has really good questions, but it's like, and I feel like he thought about it ahead of time, and I just don't do that. And I feel like maybe I should. You find it?
I'm looking it up right now.
So I guess it's maybe a happy medium. Have a couple questions, but let it flow.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that I think it's kind of why I named it Authentic Podcast, because I couldn't think of a name, and everyone's got a catchy name and all this. And that's what anybody I talked to or interview, I want it to be like genuine, down home conversation. And I think that's why, I mean, unless you're just bullshitting me, you were like, you said I was one of your best interviews ever.
No, 100%.
I don't have any media background. I don't have any journalism background. I've never done any like writing for a company or really much writing at all. So, when I think back when you told me that, I kind of was like, and I've seen your stuff on the news before. You did like a thing for a bit in Denver or something, maybe.
Few things.
Yeah.
We've been on TV quite a bit.
Yeah. And you told me you were like, you enjoyed getting the publicity, but you're like, it wasn't really your jam and you didn't feel great about it and you didn't enjoy it. So I go back to that and think, how has this guy said my interview was so great? Because I mean, I had no idea, to an extent, I'd never met you. I had no idea. I just knew you owned this underwear company and you were in the MMA game. So it just goes back that I think the conversations I have are genuine. I think they're authentic. I think I have like a calming demeanor and I'm not asking scripted questions and I don't care about how much money you made or this and this and this and I think overall too, a big part of it, I'm not doing it for notoriety. Like I think I've had the chance to get some guests and I do have the chance to get some guests who I know would bring what they call clout nowadays, but it's not a conversation I'd want to have. And there's really no topic there. Yeah. So with that, I'm seeking to make friends, to have a good conversation, to learn about people. And it's genuine. I didn't seek this out because I know that, you're a multi-million-dollar company or in 10 years, you're going to be the face of the UFC or all these fight promotions. Just like, this is cool. This is what I like. And I could see myself liking this. And that's why I wanted to learn more. And that's why I think it makes it an easy conversation and a good one.
Well, like I was saying earlier about that dude who interviewed that old lady, maybe you did that just organically. I was going to say orgasmically, and that's weird. Organically. They're very close. Organically. And you were asking me my story. That's because and I got to tell my story, and I've told it a number of times, but never quite, in my opinion, like so succinct and like enthusiastic. And you also caught me on a good day, but you just asked the right question, and it sparked a flood of memories, and that's why I really enjoyed it. People want to talk, and I used to not want to talk as much. I'm getting better at it. I'm getting more like stamina, because I remember having these conversations with this dude that I lived with back when Sheath was just starting. We all lived in this house, and a lot of my days was just filled with we're waiting for sales. Like this was 2015. We got like 5 orders a day or 10 orders a day, and that was sustainable though at the time. Anyways, my point is, this dude would fucking talk and talk and talk, and I'm just like, don't you get tired? Like, I would get tired of just talking. But now I'll do multiple podcasts and not multiple, but like I'll do my streams, and then I'll do a podcast, and then I'm talking to my wife, and something I've built up a reserve to have these, and I think it's come through many hours of conversations, and some of them are getting longer. We're doing 1.5 to 2 hour podcast now, sometimes, instead of just an hour. Especially if it's not someone who I need to like respect their time. Not that I wouldn't respect your time, but like a Malice or some people, you have an hour and that's it. But if it's relatively clear that we can continue, then if it's going well, I don't want to be like, oh, we're at an hour, we got to cut it short. We were just getting into it. Sometimes it takes a little while to get into it. Yeah, that's what I thought. I was worried about with Bruce, actually, because like I said, I never talked to Bruce directly. It was always his business partner, Kristen, who's super amazing too. Super cool. She was the one who set up the intro and everything anyways, or from the get-go. But I had just said, hey, we'd love to have Bruce. And then she shot back. She said, would love to, but he said he can give you 20 minutes. And with him, I wasn't going to argue at all. I was like, oh, absolutely. Fuck yeah. Well, then when he popped on, because, especially virtually, I always give a quick rundown before. I'm always, especially with big time people, I'm like, hey, give me a time frame, not a limit, but like a frame. And then let me know if there's anything you want to avoid, especially with like big topics. And some people are like, what do you mean? Like, what are you going to ask me about? I was like, I just like to throw it out there. Like some people, like Roland, for example, he had some things he couldn't release because he's had an NDA with the History Channel. Oh, right. So he's like, if there's anything that... Keep going. Oh, yeah. Anything that comes up, I will we'll let you know. I was like, okay.
So I can't remember what I was thinking about with this topic.
Well, time. I guess.
With this thing with time, Bruce pops up and then he's like, "Hey," he's like, "Sorry," and it's so humble. Oh my God. He said, well, first thing he said was like, "Thanks for having me on the show." And I was like, "Really? You're telling me that? Okay." And then he said, "Hey, would give you a lot longer, but I'm doing my own podcast today, and I'm doing this and this and this." He's like, so I was like, because I know your business partner said about 20 minutes. He's like, yeah. He's like, just free float. He's like, maybe 20, 30 minute time cap. So he was, just kind of giving the grid as well. And he never once like looked at his watch or, told me he had to go. He just let it free flow. And I always just was real self-conscious and kind of set a timer for those type of people.
Yeah.
So
I want to be respectful of your time. I just interviewed this guy, William Henry, who was on, I think he was kind of on the Ancient Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
If he wasn't, he's like in that kind of realm of ascended masters and ancient Egypt and all the teachings of paintings from the Bible. Like, what does it mean? And not, like those weird paintings where it'd be like a saint, but then you have like weird UFOs in the background or whatever. And like, what does all that mean? That was really fascinating. I do like the idea of higher consciousness. But I want to go to, and we'll get back to that. I want to go to Pete and Pedro. Do you have a promo code?
I did pull it up. I found it. So, cause I had two different ones, but this one was Authentic 15.
There you go.
So AUTHENTIC 15, and that gives you 15% off. And the guys,
PeteandPedro.com.
Yep, PeteandPedro.com, and they do all kinds of men's grooming stuff, and they just keep expanding. And I love the products. I love the sea salt spray and their hair putty, their body wash, and the shampoo is pretty awesome too.
If you have like funky hair, that's where you go. Like
Yeah.
I have crazy wild hair, and it helps like tame it down.
That's another example of asking. So when we were working with them, by the way, those guys are amazing. Their marketing team, they're super responsive. I felt like we were texting instead of emailing. They're so fast.
Oh wow.
So love those guys and their products. But I had asked them, I'd say, if you guys ever have an opening, I would love to talk to the guy, Aaron. And they said, obviously Aaron's super busy, and they said maybe in the future, but they connected me with another guy.
Who?
It was their director of marketing. His name was Michael something. I'd have to look it up.
Okay.
But
I know the whole team, kind of. Well, Minfluential is who he works with, but I think actually Pedro is separate from that. But I know his management company. I mean, we sponsor his YouTube videos, one a quarter.
you should ask to get him on then.
I am.
Because they were super responsive and they said yes. And honestly, I think that was kind of a deal where we just haven't scheduled it. And I had my son in February, and it could be an excuse or a reason, but my podcasting has been limited to that because I play with him, and then I get tired, and then I just be lazy too. I just need to do more of it. I'm not afraid to admit it, But the Pete and Pedro guys, they'll definitely get you connected, especially since you're a sponsor.
Yeah, I think that would help. That always gets your foot in the door.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, I'm paying you like quite a bit of money. Can
Sure.
you just come on my show for an hour?
And in my opinion, the people I talk to, if they didn't right away or whatnot, they're very responsive and friendly, whether they were like, we don't have time or we're not interested. But I find that hard to believe that they would do that, because they said yes to me. Wasn't Aaron, but it was another gentleman.
Right.
But that's another example that I want to bring up too real quick about always asking. I'm like you, I'm kind of a reader. And then I don't like do fiction, just not a fiction guy. I read, self-help, inspirational, true stories. And during 75 Hard, you got to read 10 pages a day minimum.
Uh-huh.
So I read Tom Brady's book, TB12, which is kind of dry, kind of repetitive. But, Tom Brady's just won a Super Bowl at 43, extremely healthy.
Probably figure out what is he doing.
Yeah, I can tell you, or you can read the book.
No, tell me more.
Yeah.
I'm not going to read it.
But after I read his book, I reached out to his head trainer, or, his contact email on his website, because I read the book and I was like, okay, this guy got to, still trains and mentor and be the fitness guy for Tom Brady. So it was like, I read his book, was like, would love to have him on the podcast. Shot him an email, and the company had basically said that he's really busy and he travels a lot and he's doing something. They said, but we will keep you in mind for the future. And I was like, that email's amazing. Like, I love that. I was like, okay, maybe I'll email you guys again in 6 months, or maybe they'll never do it. But the fact that they were just like, we would love to, maybe in the future, we'll let you know.
You're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
1 in a million.
Yeah. I mean, his name's Alex Guerrero, but it's the TB12 method. And long story short, with Brady, he eats just super clean.
Ah.
which everyone needs to do. We all want to read these books and do things. We just need to do the right fundamental things. He doesn't eat junk. He limits his red meats. He does about as much organic as he can. So he talks about, like, fruits and veggies to Americans. You can get them anytime you want, right? Like, you can go to Walmart at midnight and get any fruit and veggie you want. That's not how it's supposed to be. He's like, I try to eat things that are truly in season.
Yeah. And fresh off the vine, not like months old.
Exactly. He's like, I try to buy everything organic, farmer's market style, limits his red meats and his, he's not a big drinker.
Good.
And a lot of his stuff is what he calls pliability, which is just a ridiculous form and amount of stretching and loosening your muscles. Because he says guys in the NFL are really big into bulking up and thinking that protects your structure. But he's like, he lengthens and stretches his muscles and calls it pliability. And that's his big ticket. And, he's like, I drink probably 2 gallons of water a day.
Whoa.
Right? I'm doing 1 right now. And
I'm doing quite a bit. I mean, I'll drink like 2 to 3 of these a day. And I just got this liquid IV stuff from Rogan sponsorship.
Yeah, I've had it before.
And I like it. I mean, because it says for every glass you drink, it's like getting 3 times the amount, whether that's true or not.
Sure.
It's easy. It tastes pretty good. And
Brady's a big component of that too, is like getting electrolytes, adding extra electrolytes into your water.
A little bit of salt, probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. It's real basic and fundamental, which kind of takes me back to a lot of my points is, people, and I'm guilty of them, trying new diets, trying new food, that I need to do this. I need to be a runner. I need to be a CrossFitter.
Yeah.
It's really doing the simple, easy shit over and over and over that gets boring and dry and not fun.
Yeah. Fundamentals.
For the most part.
Yeah. Diet is key. Chips are probably not the best. I got these little candies over here, and they're Smart Sweets, and they're
good?
3 grams. Pretty good enough because I got like a sweet tooth, and
you like my wife?
Yeah, and it's way less sugar. Now I don't know if there's substituting that sugar with some other harmful chemical, with a name I can't pronounce, but I'm eating them, and it is less sugar, and I'm leaning up a little bit more. It is summertime though. I think that kind of happens naturally.
Yeah,
for me.
The wife and I are doing, like I told you before, 75 hard.
Yeah.
I would, now you look, in my opinion, pretty good shape. So you may not need to do that, but.
No, I need to do it. Tell me, it's Andy Frisella's, he put out his own kind of program. I know I bought his book called The Power List back in the day, and I used to listen to him religiously, the MF CEO.
Yep.
I think he changed it to the Andy Frisella show or something.
Yeah.
Does he still have that co-host that he used to have, or do you know what I'm talking about?
I do know a little bit, but I don't listen to his stuff a lot.
Okay.
I won't lie and say I do.
Good.
But his program is cool.
And tell us about that
real quick. My wife has always enjoyed First Form products. And I'm not a huge supplement guy, but I've taken them. She likes theirs because it's like you can take the pre-workout that did make you jittery and all like cranked out. But I've seen it 100 times. It was like 75 hard challenge, and it looks pretty tough and intense. And then I get in this mood where I'm all in or all out, and then when I get on something, I'm in. Like if I'm eating junk food, unfortunately, I'm like all in. I'm like, I'll start over Monday. But then if I get on a program, I'm like cutthroat, and I'm like not cutting any corners. But I've seen people do it, and I was like, I need to change boost because I'm getting chunky again. So let's look at 75 hard, and it is Andy Frisella's challenge.
I know one of them is read. You have to work outside for like an hour or 45 minutes.
45 minutes, yeah.
Outside.
2 workouts a day, but one has to be outdoors.
And they're 45 minutes each, though? One inside?
Yeah, it has to be 45 minutes. One has to be outside. And
it could be cardio and weights or whatever?
Yeah, it's real. The reason I like the challenge, too, is because it's very custom. Like, it's not... like, you get to pick your stuff. He doesn't tell you, like, he doesn't have a workout plan for you, and he doesn't have a diet plan for you either, because he doesn't want to tell you how to eat. He says, you're going to know your body the best. He's like, but you need to pick a diet and stick to it and follow it, Like, he's like, I'm not going to tell you to cut out carbs or this and this. You do what you want, but stick to it and follow it. So it's 2 45-minute workouts. One has to be outside. No cheat meals, no alcohol, 10 pages a day, gallon of water, and a progress picture. He's like, even if you're not feeling great that day, he's like, you need to take a progress picture. So,
okay.
So it's very easy and very fundamental, but it's good.
What was the diet though?
Well, the diet is, it's all up to you, but he kind of has that integrity deal. It's like, cause he's a bigger guy and he's like, I'm going to do things my way. You're going to do yours. If you need to cut low carbs or if you want to do keto or if you want to do, whatever it is, he just says, you pick your diet and you follow it. And, that's where your kind of integrity comes in. He's like, I'm not going to babysit you. You know what to eat. So like, if you're like, oh, my diet, includes, Culver's ice cream. Like obviously you're not being honest with yourself, right? So here's the tasks in order. First workout, second workout, progress pick, 10 pages of reading, gallon of water, follow diet, no cheat meals or no alcohol.
I like it.
Simple, open to you. So like with you, like our diet is not going to look the same. Like you're smaller than me. I'm 220 pounds. You're 155. I might eat, 2,200 calories a day where you're eating, 1,600 or something. Or you're like, maybe you're a big keto guy. You're like, I'm going to do the keto diet and I'm going to be like, nah, I'm going to eat low carb or something. So it's all about just kind of holding yourself accountable and following it. So, but me and the wife are on day 55 of 75.
Damn, son.
Feels
and you can
good.
chart, that the cool thing, I guess, and the downfall though would be that you can start at any time.
Yep. I started it the day I got back from Vegas. The next day.
What I like about it, or what I would like better if it happened, like everybody around the world was doing it at the same time, kind of like Sober October, because of the, like just accountability or something, or you're not doing it alone.
Yep.
I'm a team
Sure.
player. If my whole team was like, we're all going to not smoke weed, we're going to do this and this and that, and I feel like I could get on board with that. But when I'm like, what if you try to do it alone, even though you want it for yourself to become a better person, it's like, I'm not going to do it if you're not doing it.
I would definitely recommend trying the challenge.
Okay.
And but the wife and I are pretty much the same in the fact that, cause they're like, he's like, if you forget to take your progress picture one day and you fall asleep, he's like, you start over. I'm not starting over. I'm doing it or I'm not.
Yeah.
I've done, a workout at like 11 PM at night. Cause we took a road trip and we had to squeeze it in. And then, so we're the same way. Some people start over. I'm not starting over. I'm doing it and I'm knocking it out. And some days are better than others, right?
Oh, and you got an app for it?
Yeah, he has an app.
That's smart.
You don't have to download it. But
I know, but that probably helps you
it
keep
does.
track.
I would recommend it. So yeah, you see we're on day 55 and we've checked off 54 days.
Wow.
So like today I went for a run / walk with my son this morning, took my progress picture. And then the diet and the no cheat meals and alcohol are kind of automatic ones if you don't do them. So those are checked. And I've drank a half a gallon and then I kind of stopped before I came here because I don't want to
Be all day.
take pee breaks. So just got to do my reading at night, finish my water and get in another workout.
And what are you reading?
Right now I'm reading Wheat Belly.
Wheat Belly. You were saying that earlier.
Yes.
About
This
diets.
Yeah.
That were gluten probably. Is wheat gluten? I think there's some
so
confusion.
I'm only about 60 pages in. So this doctor he's a preventative cardiologist in Milwaukee, started Wheat Belly, and he talks about how gluten is only a portion of the problem with wheat. And there's a ton of science terms in there that I'm way too stupid to comprehend or reciprocate. But he talks about how the wheat we eat nowadays is just so genetically modified and manufactured over and crossbred that it's just terrible for us. And that's why he claims that's why Americans are so obese today, in addition with the other things like being sedentary and, McDonald's on every quarter mile you go. But he's like, a big part of it is wheat. He's like,
Okay.
the wheat we eat is not the wheat our grandparents ate. He's like, he claims, and shit, he's way smarter than I am, right? I kind of believe him. I noticed when I cut out a lot of wheat, like tortillas and breads, I slim down. I think that's everyone. But he said that eating 2 whole pieces of wheat bread is almost the same, will make your sugar spike more than 4 to 5 tablespoons of sugar. Mm-hmm. He's like, wheat bread can do things to your blood sugar just like raw sugar can. But people don't, you're like, oh, I'm going to eat toast with my eggs. But if you're like, I'm going to eat sugary with my eggs, you're like, no, right?
Right.
He's like, but people don't know that. So
No, they don't know. We don't know a lot of stuff that's being fed to us and the consequences that are long term.
And then he talks about how kind of one of those deals where I'm paraphrasing, maybe the 70s or 80s, there was a nutritional kick that basically said fat is bad for you. Mm-hmm. And then came in, they're like, you need to eat 5 to 7 whole grains a day. And then the American Heart Association backed it and all these deals. And he's like, not necessarily true.
Yeah, it was backwards. And who came up? I mean, fat is not that bad for you, especially like good fat, like avocado and
almonds
coconut.
and
Yeah. And then all these grains and pastas and breads. Is getting fat good for you? I mean, because that's what happens when you eat a lot of dough, bread, grains.
And then like he had said, like a lot of his clients come in, well, I'm not eating bagels and muffins and breads and tortillas. And there's like, well, what, wheat is in a lot of things. And he's like, well, like a lot of things that like pretzels, like healthy style pretzels, stuff like that.
What about beer?
Beer for sure. Yeah, I think that one's a given. So,
but I know, but like, is that the bad wheat? Is all wheat bad wheat?
So I'm only 60 pages in. So I can't take too much to the bank, but I would assume that the wheat in beer is probably not the best for you. Because I mean,
beer's already not good for you.
Exactly.
And then add wheat to it.
Exactly.
It's like double bad.
But wheat belly is good. It's very interesting.
If you're gonna drink beer, don't drink wheat beer. Maybe I'm drinking this milk stout that I don't really like beer, but I came across it was a coffee stout. And then, but apparently any kind of stout, like a Guinness stout, but like a coffee stout. You would think it has coffee in it, but it doesn't.
Right. Is it good?
Yeah, it's great.
What's it called?
Just the coffee stout.
There's so many of them now.
Yeah.
Beers are so unique. Mm-hmm. I see like, all these fruity beers, jalapeno beers.
Well, and the seltzers are the thing. We're doing like this fake seltzer release, a Sheath seltzer. Just because everybody's making a seltzer. We're not doing it, but we just made this image that we're releasing it as a gag for like April Fools or something. Have you heard of Happy Dad?
The Nelk Boys?
The Nelk Boys.
Oh, yeah. Everybody knows the Nelk Boys.
Yeah. I love them. We've been trying to work with them. They just met Trump at the UFC
They're
thing.
Everywhere.
Yeah. They were in Abu Dhabi, and my brother's been following them for the longest time. And
the main guy's not even American. And he's met Trump like 3 or 4 times.
Canada, is he?
Yeah, he's Canadian.
He's funny.
He
Those
is
guys
funny.
Are so funny. If you haven't seen the Nelk Boys, watch some of their old pranks where they're
oh my gosh,
blowing smoke in people's faces. Those big smoke clouds from the vapes.
Yeah,
those obnoxious ones. That's super funny. And
oh yeah. Did you see the deal where they took that guy on like a bachelor party and he fought Justin Gaethje? Oh, you didn't?
No.
You got to go watch it. I don't know if you mean to let you surprise it or spoil it for you. It's up to you.
Go ahead.
Okay. So they take this guy to Vegas, like he won their package or something, and they take him to do all kinds of stuff. And then they take him to the gym and they're like, and I'm sure Dana hooked it up, but they're like, if you can spar Justin Gaethje for, I want to say it was like a minute or something small, you get like tickets to 245 or whatever. And so they strap him up. And I had an idea they might do this, but they get in there and Justin doesn't really go too hard on him. He kind of just toys with him. But it was still cool because the kid's like, he didn't know that. At least I don't think he did. So he put the gear on and starts going towards Gaethje and kind of holding up. And it's really funny. Kind of cool.
I'll have to watch it. You don't have to spoil it any further. Have you ever like fought anyone?
Like in 8th grade.
Yeah.
I've been in like 1 or 2 fights, but I'm not like an aggressive person, so not a lot.
Yeah. I was telling this story to someone the other day. When I was in the Army, we took combatives courses, which was basically like jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. And, even they would use the Army uniform as a gi, and we would do chokes. And
I love that. I've seen that stuff.
Very cool. And then there was levels to it, and you could get combatives level 1, 2, up to 4. And I was training for 2, and I went to the gym where the combatives training was done, and nobody was in there except the coach. So it was just like me and him, and he was taking it, upon himself to just train me directly. And somehow it came up that we were going to spar, because I want to spar. Maybe I'm running my mouth a little bit. And we put on all this gear. I mean, it was head to toe gear, like shin pads, elbow pads, helmet, body like pads. It was weird, because the fight was over in like 2 seconds, because he just like I don't know what he did.
He knocked you out?
He basically, I didn't like knock out, but it was like knocked to the ground so hard that I didn't want to get back up right away or do that anymore. So
what did that do for you? Do you think that toughened you up, or do you think it opened your eyes to how like fighting could be? Or
I think it opened my eyes to how big of a difference there can be in opponents, from a skill level to size, and there's levels, and you want a fair matchup rather than, this giant versus David versus Goliath or whatever.
Sure. I tell people all the time, like I said, the kickboxing I do is like very limited. I don't try to be one of those guys that's like, yeah, I trained this. Like, dude, I'm in beginner to middle tier kickboxing. Like, it's mainly a workout and to learn the art.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a lot of contact in there.
Yeah.
But on days that you per se turn it up a little bit, I always think, I'm like, I can't imagine if my partner here, I was in a real fight and he's really trying to kick my ribs in. It's easy to watch UFC with, chicken wings and beer and be like, oh, I can't believe he didn't make it out of the first round. And then you go in there and they're like, hey, give him a little heat on your kick, or, kind of touch the head. And you're just like, these guys are a new level. And I mean, I'm a bigger guy, but someone who knows what they're doing, it doesn't matter how big they are. If they know what they're doing, they'll get after it. So
I saw this YouTube video not too long ago. These smaller guys, like my size, walking up to guys like your size. There were football players. I think probably a lot of people saw it, and the football player was talking shit, and the little guy was kind of just he just smiled with his friend. He just laughed. He goes, "Here we go," and he slapped him, and then like took him down, and then did some kind of weird guillotine, and like the guy was passed out and like really fast. Do you see that?
There's so much on there. It just depends.
It was probably like 5 months ago or whatever, and they were like college students. I think Ohio or Nebraska.
Okay, I think you're talking about Oklahoma Sooners.
Probably.
Yes. Are they in like a bar bathroom?
Yeah.
Okay. So because I'm from Oklahoma, everybody's OU fan. The kids I think they were wrestlers at OU, or if not, they were like, they trained jiu-jitsu or whatnot, and the guys were on the football team. Like I said, the football players like my size, probably 6'2", 6'3", 200, and the other guys, 5'6", $170. And like I said, he just snaps him in, locks him in, and not only did that, like I said, he popped him pretty good with a fist.
I feel like he slapped him and then did that.
Yeah.
I love a slap. I'm a big fan of the slap, and I was talking to Bryce. Stockton slap, exactly. And it's genius, because I was talking to Bryce Mitchell about it, and you just get more. That's like in some cases 4 more inches of reach, and
it's a little demeaning too, right?
Yeah,
you're like, I just slapped you, like because like we're rolling and fighting, and then it's like, I just slapped you. What are you gonna do?
And then they get all mad, and then come in and.
You see those memes with Brandon Moreno's one of them, one of your guys, man. By the way, congrats on that. But
shout out to Brandon. He's coming on.
Is he really?
It's already agreed. Yeah, for sure.
Dude, I think he might take the NMF from Steven, the nicest motherfucker.
Yeah, he's so sweet.
There's a meme of him, he's wearing like, he's like a big anime or a cartoon guy, and he's wearing like one of his shirts, and it's like, imagine telling somebody this guy's going to whoop your ass.
Yeah, exactly.
But then it's like, he will.
Dude, his form, I love watching him fight, because the way he like locks, he's something with his shoulders, and it's just like they're hinges, and I feel like there's something to be learned from how.
If you can get a question in for me with him, I got a good one maybe for you.
Please, no, I would love that.
Because obviously, he got cut from the UFC. Probably didn't want that.
Right?
Just say, why do you think you got cut? Do you think it's because you're not a flashy shit talker, or do you think like you? At that point in your career, maybe you weren't doing as hot as you were. But how does this guy who is the champion and in pretty good fashion of domination, how did you get cut from the UFC? That to me, from the naked eye, looks like a huge mistake on the UFC. Maybe, like I said, maybe he's because he's not a shit talker, and the UFC loves a good trash talker. Mm-hmm. But I would like to know that, because I mean, he was on the Contender Series, and then he gets cut. He only had like 2 losses, and then he gets cut. I mean,
that doesn't make sense.
Connor's a different story, but he's won 1 fight in 5 years. So.
That made me think of Jason Knight, who was on this Killer Terror. Do you know who that is? Mm-hmm. He's like from Louisiana, this country boy. He has these huge, like, demon wings on his back, but he's turned Jesus like 100%, which is great.
UFC guy, or?
Yeah, he was, and he got cut. Yeah, look him up, because then he went to like LFA. Then he just fought for Game Bred Fighting Alliance, which we sponsored that show, and it was cool. We might do it again.
You know who I'd like to talk to is, and I've never asked, but I could try, is Ali.
Oh yeah.
Do you like him?
I've only. He's a hustler.
He manages everybody.
He manages all the motherfuckers.
He's got like so many champions. And
Gaethje and
Habib.
Triple C was on there when he.
Usman.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of champions.
Khabib, yeah. And
he lived here for a little bit. Yeah. He was on Mike Tyson's show.
I remember Connor called him like this slimy little rat or weasel or something.
Terrorist rat.
Yeah. And that was my only glimpse of an opinion of him. So I immediately thought he was a scumbag.
Right. Yeah, no, my brother always says that, like, it just being funny. But I listened to him on Tyson's and Mike Tyson's podcast, and he lived here for 2 or 3 years training at the Olympic Center.
Wow.
So, I mean, I don't know what his background is, honestly. I know he's foreign, but he must not have been too big of a terrorist because he was like training at the Olympic Center.
Yeah.
But he named, because I've only lived here for about a year, but he named a bar that he used to bounce at downtown on Tejon Street.
Do you know his whole name?
Ali Abdelaziz.
That's okay. See, I thought that was true because we just started working with this kid. Shout out to Abdulaziz. This kid made this commercial for us. He's 17 years old, and we won't stay on this, but his name is Abdulaziz, and he made an amazing commercial based off of this. We went to a fashion show, first fashion show we'd ever done, and it was in Fort Collins 2 weeks ago. I met this kid there, and he was like fascinated with the story, and he was like Joe Rogan. I listened to Joe Rogan and all these things, and we started talking about the company, and he just was inspired somehow from the story of it all. And
he's a model?
No, he was a cameraman. He was working for another brand there. It's a good day for a great day. They make shirts, pretty cool shirts. Good day for a great day. I like the positivity. He was shooting for them, and I was like, since you're here, when my team goes out or when our models go out, can you shoot it? And he did it, and I paid him like a fraction of what I would have paid some huge
company.
Yeah, exactly. He was 17 and he loved it, and that's how that's how you. I was gonna say build relationships, but he was offering to. He was already taking some footage for us to add, promote us on his blog, just kind of for fun and for free, and that's how it's like giving. I was telling him about like giving also, and how a lot of people, they want to just be, paid up front. Like, I'm not doing anything until you pay me. And because he was offering it for free, I liked, it was like speaking my language. And so I ended up giving him some money. But that's like a huge thing that, like, probably the reason why Bruce Buffer came on your show is because he knows that principle. It's like, if I give this kid some of my time, it's going to make a huge impact on his life. It's not that big of a deal for me.
Right.
And everybody wins. And,
Well, that's something I've tried to hold to, because it's not like I've been asked to be on many podcasts, but I've been on, this will be my 4th.
Nice.
But because I do, like, I try to, I join a lot of groups on Facebook to read, and a lot of it is junk, but I filter through it. And I met a cool guy from Ireland. I follow his podcast. He has a ton of MMA fighters on. I'll send it to you, but very similar to me. Hell, we even kind of look alike. It was like, whoa, this is kind of strange. But I've met people like that, internet friends per se, network and all that. But I've been asked to be on 4 things, and this could change, right? But for my time being, my mindset is to never say no to anybody.
Right.
Because how could I say no when Bruce said yes to me? Because I'll be honest, like I said, one of his customers per se, but how many customers does he have? And 2, if he told me no, he would never, he's never going to see me.
Right.
He's never going to know. The thing I bought from him is a one-time deal. It's not like I subscribed to his monthly deal, so it's not like he's losing a customer. I already bought it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then 2,
that was on Cameo, right?
No, well, he does them on Cameo, but this was actually through his website, because I try to be genuine and authentic with it. And technically, if you buy someone's Cameo, you're not allowed to use it for reproduction.
For sure.
So I went through his actual website and I got like the audio, and it's not a one-time deal. I probably could have done it through Cameo. And
but you don't want to be taking someone's image and likeness for your benefit without giving them, at least letting them know.
Yeah. And I mean, the goal was to make
them
good money one day from it. And if I ever ran into issues, that's like, hey, I could sue you technically.
No, and it's such a great intro.
Yeah, thank you.
Authentic podcast with Justin Doulard.
Yeah, when he did it, because I'm a huge fan, I wasn't so certain that it wasn't going to be corny though, because I was like, we'll see how it goes.
Right.
Because like, this could be really corny and tacky.
Yeah.
And I'd be honest with you if I thought it was. But in my opinion, when I heard it, I was like, holy shit, he freaking killed it, man.
Yeah, he did.
I thought
when I heard it, I was like, get the fuck out of here. You like, how did you do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People that randomly listen to it, like new listeners, they'll be like, dude, how did you get this? And then I'm like, and then I got him on. And then people, when I put that out, they're like, how did you get him on? And I'm like, dude, I emailed him, asked him, and he's a freaking humble guy.
I just thought of, he's on Bisping's podcast, but it's from a fight. You know, he mentioned, you know, it's like, and new undisputed middleweight champion of the world, Michael the Count Bisping. That's how their podcast starts. And it's really cool.
When I put it out, the episode on my Facebook, it was a little fact because I can't remember what day I had him on. I'll say it was like May 15th or something. I can't remember because it was not that long ago. I was like, on April 15th, this guy was on Mike Tyson's podcast. On May 15th, he's on mine. It's like,
oh shit,
that's crazy for perspective, right?
Yeah, that is funny.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
I do love Mike's stuff, by the way. I'll be honest, I'm a Tyson fan, but his voice is hard to deal with sometimes. But his guests are awesome.
Really?
Oh yeah. Do you listen or no?
No, it's hard for me to get. Like, I have enough podcasts that I listen to. It's like I cannot listen to anymore, and I feel bad because people want me to listen to their podcast, and I'm like, meh. I like the podcast I listen to. That's
another thing that I try and do with people is anyone who says they listened or if I send something and they don't get around to it, I try not to get upset or bent out of shape because there's so much out there. And that's why, and it's not a popular opinion, but with, you know, my stuff is all sporadic. Like, I've had so many different guests, but I feel like it serves different people because I feel like when you're so centrally focused, you kind of just weed people out and you only hit that one group. No. So like if I had, because I love MMA and I have a lot of MMA topics on, but if I did it every single week, there's certain people. So some people draw into different episodes, and that's how I am.
Yep, me too.
Like with Rogan,
especially with Rogan, he's doing so many. I can't. Yeah. I'm only going to listen to like
and they're
1 out of 10 anymore.
And they're so long.
Yeah.
So like for example, when he had on Post Malone, me and my brother were super pumped. And I'll be honest, it was highly disappointing.
Yeah.
It was 4 hours, and I get it. They were, you know, whacked out of their mind. But they talked about bugs for like an hour. And
yeah, sometimes it does get into some territories where I'm like, I'm not a fan of the cars sometimes. And
yeah, because I don't know anything about cars. And
it's like I like certain guests, and usually it's like the first wave when they come back on, like. It's usually returning guests.
Yeah.
Well, I like David Sinclair, the Life Extension people, certain comedians, like his really close, like if Ari Shaffir goes on, or I don't listen to Brian Redband. Like if he goes on there, I'm like, whatever. But
did you listen to, 'cause you do listen to Theo Von? Or
yeah,
no?
I love Theo Von.
Did you listen to the one with Jimmy John's, the founder of Jimmy John's?
No.
That was good. And then the founder of Raising Cane's?
No.
So those are both chains. I know you like local biz
Absolutely.
and all that. But Jimmy John's was good, but the Raising Cane's founder and CEO, hell of a dude. His principles are cool. He's, you know, basically he's like, you know, when I started in college, he's like, I actually like working a fry line. He's like, frying food. He's like, I kind of like the hustle and bustle. And he just talks about Raising Cane's and how it's simple. And people told him, he was like, I'm going to open up, you know, chicken strips or chicken fingers. And they were like, no, there's too many of those. And he was like, I don't care. Mine's going to be good, simple, and I'm going to do it. But then he talked about how he knows he's a franchise and a corporation, but during the pandemic, he helped out a lot of local businesses because their model wasn't ready for that.
Wow.
He's like, with Raising Cane's, he's like, there's 3 menu options. Most people come through the drive-thru. It's like a 5-minute grab and go. He's like, these local businesses, they weren't meant up to go. People come in to eat. Right. They know the owner. So he did a lot of free consulting and a lot of donations to these people. So basically he just, you know, sounds like a hell of a guy. Just kind of stated that he knows his model, but he also appreciates the local biz and encourages you to go see those guys. Like, for
that's
dinner.
Going to come back to him. That's the kind of shit that will win goodwill from the people, you know, and the people that you were helping. That's how it all circles back. I mean, I was talking with this guy in San Antonio named Cameron Davies, and he's on like Nat Geo. He builds mods. He modifies trucks and turns them into like supercars or super trucks, and so he's making money. But then he started a gym, and then he sponsors fighters, and he gives the fighters jobs, and same with these rap / musician artists. Like he's helping all these people who are trying to come up, and because he has a bit of a foundation for that assistance to be available, and I think ultimately it just builds your you get more fans because you're helping these people, and the people that they're associated with are probably going to like really appreciate you as a company. When we sponsor fighters, my hope is that their whole family appreciates it. Might not be the case, but if you're out there, that's what I'm expecting. So,
well, and then you learn too. Like I know I don't remember a lot of like hard like educational stuff like in school. Like I mean, I'm not dumb, but like I don't remember certain things. Like I'm terrible at math and all that. But I when I meet people, I don't forget stories they tell me or certain ones, and I think that's why I do well at this and talking with people. And I like it goes back to that. I remember when you told me you guys sponsored somebody in the NBA. And you thought it would be amazing and all this, and then you were like, it sucked.
Yeah,
because it was just a chore for him. You checked it off the list, and he like barely did it, and you ended up, you asked for your money back, and he did send it to you, right?
He ultimately gave us most of our money. I think he gave us all but $1,000, which is fine.
Yeah, but that makes me think about that is you live and you learn. You know, you're like, man, maybe I want to. I would like to have an NFL player, an NBA player, but then and maybe eventually you will, and maybe it'll work out because they're not all like that. But
of course,
I think where you're at is perfect because these guys are hungry and they're appreciative. And we've said this time and time again on my show and when we've talked, these guys in the MMA are a little more appreciative, and they're just so much more down home than the big stars.
Yes.
So I do think most of the people that you sponsor appreciate it, and if they don't, clearly you found out.
Yeah.
Like the NBA guy might have burned you on basketball players, and maybe someone will come up and change it. But leading into that, have you kept up with the deal they did with the NCAA, the college kids?
I just heard.
Are you going to try to get in on that?
We're going to try to get. I want golfers because
I know you said that.
I'm just that's a demographic that I feel like
because people watch golf got freaking money, man.
They got money, and a lot of our competitors are already in that field, like market, and they're doing well, and you can get cool shots of them on the course where it's like a beautiful background, and usually sometimes they're decent looking. I don't know. I mean, that plays a part.
Most golfers are actually in really good shape. So.
And so that's a good demo. We're thinking wrestling because of the fighting aspect of it, which is kind of just is in line with what we're currently doing. You
gonna try to look for like maybe college golfers?
Yeah.
Since you can do that now with the kids.
Exactly.
And that's another group that might be appreciative is, the first year these kids can make money on it. And I think the NCAA was crooked for a long time. And I think a lot of the kids on there, especially not the big stars, a lot of them aren't trying to go to college to get rich. A lot of them are trying to just, pay the bills and eat. Because, like, say, for example, you go to college at OU, University of Oklahoma. You're in the city, you're in Norman, like an apartment's probably $1,300 or $1,400 a month. Say you move there from Texas or Florida, and you don't have a lot of family doesn't have a lot of money, and your scholarship might cover a little, but and those guys, they don't have time to work. They're on the field, and
we can really help them out and get that ends meet.
Yeah. Heaven forbid they actually have a major where they're trying to actually learn and not take blow-off classes. Like they don't have time, so.
Yeah, no, and that's where I feel like we do these smaller deals with these guys, and it'll impact them for the rest of their life potentially, and we might work together indefinitely. Because as we grow and as we bring on new people, sometimes we part our ways, and sometimes we don't. And if it's a mutually beneficial relationship, then we'll just keep it going, and that means they don't have to work. All they got to do is take their shirt off and do an Instagram post and flex. And
I meant to ask you. I noticed you sponsored my buddy Aaron.
Which one?
Aaron McKenzie and LFA. Mm-hmm. How did that come about? Did he reach out to you, or did you guys reach out to him? Or
I feel like he's probably represented by.
Oh, he does have a management company.
Iridium Sports, and it might be this other dude, this other company. There's about 3 different agencies, 4. A bunch, actually.
Yeah, Aaron was in my fraternity.
Oh, so, wow.
Let's see, Iridium?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Let me see a picture of him.
Okay. Yeah, he's 10-2-1, and he trains under Lovato.
See?
He's an Oklahoma guy.
I love that tattoo.
Yeah, actually, I think that's just one of his that's loading, but I think there's one on here with, there's your mask, the Sheath mask.
Oh, that's such a cool picture, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, his tattoo's pretty gnarly.
Let me see it.
Dude, that picture? Yeah. Tough son of a bitch, too.
I'm just going to point it right
Yeah.
here. Maybe you guys put that in the clip
yeah.
that in.
Shout out to Aaron if he listens. So that's
I'd like to see. I want to get all these guys on the show and keep having good conversations, talking about what it takes to become whatever they're, a champion or just get in the ring.
So my buddy, my internet buddy, never met him, but we talk all the time. His name's Darren Potts. He has the podcast. He just had James Gallagher on. You know him? Bellator?
Jim Gallagher? Just kidding.
James Gallagher that looks like a little Conor McGregor in Bellator?
No, I don't think so.
This guy right here.
Oh, wow.
He's from Dublin.
Nice.
Yeah, he just had him on.
Wow.
Same thing. He just reached out and asked, and he's had a couple other guys on, good ones too. He's a really good podcaster. I tried to take notes from him because I always try to improve, and I feel like he does really well. He had Eric Nixick, head coach at Extreme Couture. Mm-hmm. So he had Ngannou's coach on, and all he did was just reach out and ask him, and that was a great episode. Talked about how he got started training at Extreme Couture, and then he ended up buying the gym from Randy Couture.
Wow.
Yep. And then, obviously Francis is on top of the world right now. Well, he was until they kind of stripped the belt from him per se. But
oh yeah.
But yeah, no.
Why is that happening? Because he didn't want to fight Derek Lewis.
You read different things, so it's all speculation. But I think they said they wanted to make a match, and he wasn't gonna be ready till maybe September, October. But they're fighting in August, so it's that's 30 extra days. Habib had a vacant belt for 6 months.
Yeah. Well, I want him to just fight Jones. I wouldn't mind if Stipe fought Jones and this Derek Lewis fight happens again with Ngannou. But of course, that first fight was lackluster. I hope they wouldn't do that again because that would be so embarrassing.
I actually had to go back and rewatch that because for some reason I didn't watch the first one, and they were like, yeah, it was. I just remember seeing that it's one of the most boring fights in the UFC, and I was like, really? So I go back and I was like, oh my god, how did this happen?
Circling each other the whole time. If my memory serves me, I think 3
do
punches
you
were thrown.
Do you think would you take Francis or John Jones in that one if you had to pick?
I want to see them standing up next to each other, but because I would instinctively say Ngannou, but then I'd be a little bit Jones is a better fighter, I think.
And
right?
he when he thickens up, it's. I mean, his brothers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they're defensive ends in the NFL, so
yeah.
Clearly these guys are meant for sports, and when you're DN in the NFL, you're going to be about what he's trying to get at, 240, 260, 270 weight wise. So I mean, John's probably carries that a lot more well than people think, because the fact that he could get down to 205 and be so elusive is probably pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So
it took me a long time to really appreciate everything that he did. And I kind of hated him for some reason. Sometimes
I'm not a fan of him, but I'll never deny his talent ever.
Yeah, something changed over not too long ago where I'm just he's just lost and he's trying to do the best he can. We're all sinners in the eyes of the Lord, and he is assuredly that. But then he goes and tries to redeem himself. But it looks like bullshit, It looks like he's doing it for the cameras, and maybe he is. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's not, and he's trying, but he's falling short. And something, I see him more as a human now. Maybe some of his fights were a little bit closer. I like that. I like when you don't. I would almost have liked him more if he would have lost somewhere along the line, not to Matt Hamill or Mark, probably not, because that didn't count, right? But that was the deaf guy. Do you remember that? Where he got DQ'd for.
Oh, was that his DQ? Or
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know that was his name. I didn't watch back then.
He was a deaf guy. He I think he won the Ultimate Fighter on the season that Bisping was on, but then Bisping ultimately ended up being the champion. But Jones just being so dominant, ultimately, I don't like that. I want to see a loss, but a comeback.
Right.
Not
just dominate every single time.
Yeah.
That's kind of like I don't think you're a huge football guy, but in the NCAA, the big teams that are the Alabama Crimson Tide, the Clemsons, the Florida, Oklahoma Sooners, all those guys, their first 2 games, they open up with tiny schools. And now every now and then they'll get an upset, but usually it's 60-7, the score. It's like a warm-up game for them. And they actually pay those schools to do that. But, as a fan, everyone loves it because it's 67, but it's
like a slaughter.
At halftime, they're up by 7 touchdowns.
Yeah.
It's never close.
Right.
I mean, last year, the spread bet for OU's opening game was 55 points, and they won by 55 points.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, because they play these teams that are nowhere near their level. And that's I don't like watching it. It's fun to see them light up the scoreboard for a little bit, but then you're like, okay, this one's over. At halftime, we'll turn
Exactly.
it off.
Right.
But when they play Texas, it's always a big rival. OU versus Texas, always a big rivalry. It goes, so not like last year, a couple years ago, it went to like triple overtime, and you're on the edge of your seat. It's super fun. I'm with you. I don't like first round finishes. I mean, sometimes I do, but I want to see a dirty Dan Hooker, Dustin Poirier 5-round fight. You're like, okay, this could come down to the last 30 seconds.
Right.
Now, I don't like to see anybody get hurt, but those ones that go the distance, like the Zhang Wei Li,
Joanna
yeah, oh my
Jędrzejczyk.
God, yeah.
That was awesome. Yeah, and I was just thinking of like Edson Barbosa versus Tony Ferguson, and
All those.
Figueiredo versus Marino, that first one.
Yeah.
And then he beat, I think it was a first or second round finish on this one.
Yeah.
I love the UFC, love fighting, love talking about it,
Sure.
love podcasting. We're at like 2 hours, and so
Is it really? Wow.
I know. So that's pretty cool. Probably our longest podcast, and a great one. And I appreciate you coming on, sticking with me, just having a chat. He's Justin Doulard from The Authentic. No, just The Authentic with Justin Doulard.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because if you have the podcast, it makes it a little...
Oh, yeah. Authentic
tricky.
Podcast with Justin Doulard. I'll pull up a picture here so you can see. It's actually my buddy Darren who posted that. So it's on YouTube, it's on Apple, Spotify, pretty much all the major stuff. So
Yeah,
have
and
a lot
you have some really good guests.
Yep, and I'm working on more, keeping it up. Like I said, I had my son. He is 5 months old, so I'm a little hindered, but we're getting back on it. And
Yeah.
I appreciate you for having me. It's always a good talk, and I love it, man. You're an authentic guy, and you're good, and keep going, keep doing it, man. Keep asking, and don't be afraid. And
We're gonna top the charts, both of our podcasts. As time goes on, if you just don't quit, I feel like we're gonna beat out a lot of the chaff, whatever the cream rises to the top.
Sure.
A little bit.
people are going to tell you no. I've been told no. I've been left on red. Been left on red by big people, and then I've been left on red by people. I was like, whoa, like no offense, but damn, I thought you would definitely want to do it.
Right.
Like Megan Anderson from the UFC.
Yeah.
Well, she was in the UFC. She left me on red, but can't be too upset, right? I mean, she's got like 500,000 followers,
Yeah.
so it is what it is. But I appreciate you having me on, and we need to get you back on mine too.
Yeah.
Talk about your stuff, because your stuff is just growing and changing daily. So.
Anytime. I would love it. And just keep practicing conversations. It's good for me. And I know that I've noticed a difference in even my ability to like recall shit, like how Rogan got better over the years. It's happening. And how long have you been doing it?
Let's see, about a year and a couple months, just
Yeah.
a little over a year.
Well, you're already good, but you'll notice that you just get better.
Oh my God. I listened to some of my first ones and I'm like,
Yeah.
because I never like my own voice. I never will, I don't think. But I listened to some of my first three and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I want to delete these, but I don't. They're,
Right.
They're brutal.
Yeah,
I think
you
I've
gotta
gotten
show
better,
the
so.
progress.
And everybody forgets that, or doesn't know. Everybody knows Rogan over the past 3 or 4 years, but I mean, he did his first ones in a basement with, $20 headphones and holding a microphone like this with Joey Diaz, like stoned, laughing on his couch. It's not like this big factor he has in Austin like it used to be. So
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be as you're starting. You can use your iPhone. So, and just get out there and have conversations, post it up, and see what happens. And that's what we're doing here. Thank you, Justin. I will come on your podcast. Do you have anything else you want to say to anyone?
No, just appreciate it. And, keep following this guy. He's going to do big things. And, if you guys want to listen to mine, Authentic Podcast with Justin Doulard. And then one thing I like to ask is I like for good criticism. I like to get better. And then if you have, most of my guests are referrals of people that I know. So if you have anybody you think would be good for the show, absolutely let me know. Some of my biggest and best guests have been through friends of friends. Mm-hmm. So
we'll have to get Malice on there. He's really fun.
Yeah, would love it.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time. The Pete and Pedro, that promo code was
Authentic 15.
Authentic 15, and we got our ohanakababar.com Sheath 10 saves you 10%. It's good stuff. This is a tincture. This is what I would get if I was you to start. Let me know. Leave a comment. This is on YouTube also, and leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes if you would, because that always helps. And if we don't ask, you won't do it. That's something we learned from this podcast.
100%.
Just ask
You never
them.
ask,
Leave us
you
a
never
comment.
know.
Comment for sure on YouTube and subscribe. And then we're out. Okay. Peace.